All right. My name is David Seidel. I have been at Bishop McGinnis since 2003. I am a senior government and economics teacher. I am the alumni coordinator and senior class moderator and Model UN coach.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Seidel. So,
You're welcome.
This year with COVID and everything going on, you've had to change a lot of the things you do here at Bishop and the things you're in charge of and monitor. So first, we're going to discuss the polling project with the seniors. So how is your experience this year different conducting the project and making sure students have a similar experience while keeping them safe?
Well, that's been the whole concept, the whole problem with all the schools, right? Is trying to make sure that the experience is similar regardless of COVID. And that's been very difficult with the procedures and following the CDC guidelines and all the recommendations while still trying to have a similar experience that all the previous years have had so that we can continue the successes that we've had throughout time. So with regards to the polling project, I've always worked closely with political organizers of both parties in several different counties to make sure that the students get a variety of experiences at the different polling places. Do they work for the party? Do they work for a candidate? Do they work for a bond referendum? So all of that remained the same. The purpose remained the same. So the challenge became how do we organize, how do we distribute the students so that there's enough distance, everybody's outside as much as possible, and everybody understood, the adult organizers understood that the student safety was a priority, as we always work toward that end anyway, but with the COVID requirements and restrictions, it was important that they maintain the safety and security of the students from that perspective as well. So we had to organize it a little better. We had to make sure that the students were spaced out a little more, that they didn't congregate, and that they were all outside. Unfortunately, the weather cooperated, and it was a nice day, so it was easy to be outside.
So did you see a similar level of engagement with this year's senior class in comparison to previous years?
Absolutely, this class was great. It was I think a lot of it had to do with the election. The election itself, of course, was very contentious. The 2020 campaign was very volatile and very just energy charged. So the students emulated that. The reflection on both sides of the political spectrum, everybody was very passionate about what they believed in and who they wanted to work for. I think that was even compounded by the fact that people have been locked up for 6 months. So I think that getting students back to school face-to-face was a good idea in August to get everybody back after being locked up and quarantined for so long. And then to have them do a project that we've done for 20 years, that project, to have them do that as really energized the class. And it was something that they could share in the experience. Everybody had done it in the classes before, and it was even amplified more so because of the 2020 election itself. So it was an excellent class for that.
And then for Model UN, you have a lot of seniors leaving, and I think you're really focusing on growth. So how has the program been able to grow even in the midst of this pandemic?
Well, the UN team this year's UN team is exemplary, and I'm very frustrated that I can't take them anywhere. So we've had to do, we'll do 3 conferences. We did a conference at University of Charlotte, Vanderbilt, and shortly we'll do American University. All virtual, which is a different challenge. So it's difficult to recruit if everything's online. The experience, the seniors, the juniors, the experienced team, they're doing fine, they're doing well, and we've had some successes with the virtual component. The problem is the recruitment. The problem is how do we get 9th graders and 8th graders who usually get to experience our middle school event, which has 220 8th graders and 7th graders coming into the school to experience the school, to experience the students all of a sudden they're not going to come. That's going to be virtual as well. So how do we recruit for the incoming freshmen for next year, as well as within the building? So to that end, what we instituted this year was an in-house debate program. It runs for a month. It's totally student-led by excellent students who have put a year's worth of work into it to try to expand the base, if you will, to draw from the school, not just focus on recruiting for incoming ninth graders, but also to generate more interest within the school.
And then speaking of the debate tournament, how has that program been able to embrace new and interested students, and how has that been going for the team as well?
It's been excellent. The buy-in from the English department and other sophomore teachers with extra credit and different incentives for the students has really allowed. We've had a huge sophomore influx. We've had some freshmen who have stepped up, a couple of seniors that hadn't done debate, wanted to do it. So it's really crossed all 4 grade levels. And it allows for people who would otherwise not be able or want to debate. These are shorter debates. They're only 17 minutes long. So after school, they can come in and debate and get on the bus if they ride a bus, or if they have to go to sports, they can do a debate and still make it to sports practice. We're trying to be as flexible and inclusive as possible. And it's really, I think it's done wonderfully for recruiting, as well as overall school involvement, to have people in the school have something to do, because so much has been canceled. And there's it's all been academic for the entire year. That's been the focus. There's been the extracurriculars have really been shut down. So this is really a chance for everybody to have a different kind of challenge.
And then on the topic of online competitions, I think online things have been sterile and very hard to get interested in. So how has the team kind of coped with that, and how has that been for them, the successes and also the kind of not so fun parts?
It's difficult. It absolutely is. The virtual is a stopgap measure. I don't think anybody out there wants to do it any more than they have to. As far as team coordination, university coordination, this is an in-person type of experience. It's about collaboration between schools, between states, between individuals, and to do that online is very difficult. That being said, the technology has allowed people who would otherwise not be able to participate. We've never done the Charlotte conference because it always interfered with the Vanderbilt conference. Well, the online, the virtual ability to say, we're going to do this 1 week before the Vanderbilt conference allowed us to do 2 conferences. So we did get more experience that way. It elevated our profile as a team, and it gave people more experience with the technology, which we all need to get better at how we interact with technology. The teleconferencing is not going away. It's going to become a standard, unfortunately, throughout all of our entire society. People are realizing that they can teleconference very easily without getting out of their PJs, without leaving home, and they are going to not travel the way they used to. And so there's going to be a change in society because of what COVID has brought to us with that. So just to add on to that one last piece, the team has worked really hard at encouraging involvement in these conferences, but there's been a struggle without the travel part of it, because a lot of times the travel is the incentive. That team camaraderie is the incentive to get people off the fence and to participate. So that's become a challenge.
And then what elements from this year would you like to bring into future Model UN years, and even the polling project? What would you want to see the same and continued in the future?
The ability to communicate teleconference and the teleconference methods has helped us put a name to a face. So a lot of times while we would call on the phone and we would talk to candidates on the phone, you couldn't put a name to a face. Doing it on Zoom allows you to have more of a relationship and more of an understanding of what the person looks like, what they're about. You can get facial features, tone is better. So from a communications perspective, I don't mind that so much. I don't mind talking to students on Zoom one-to-one, because you get a feel for what they're thinking or saying just from facial expressions and tone, and that don't come through on email or come through on the phone. So the teleconferencing, learning how to do it so easily, the ability to have a class, the spur of the moment, go virtual, is a lot of flexibility that you can use. If students are sick or teachers out of town, you can still have some kind of class, so there is a continuity there. As far as its applicability to the project, I would say that's the biggest part, is just the enhanced communication. It's still, politics is still a handshake game. It's still about seeing people. When you go to the polls, you want to see young people. Everybody wants to see young people at the polls because it gives them hope for the future. I get comment after comment on how well students behave, and how well how good they dressed and how polite they were, and it makes the school look good, but it also gives them hope for an involved electorate, an involved group of young people who are going to go forward and care. It runs contrary to the narrative that they get about teenagers. The narrative adults, whatever that means, get about teenagers is that they don't leave the basement. They're playing Fortnite all day long. They're uninvolved. They don't care, and that's just simply not the case. And this is one way to show that. So you're never going to replace the person to person like that.
And then your government and economics class is the big senior thing. So how have your classes, how have you talked about COVID and just this year in general, like through those classes?
Everything we've done from the government perspective is the impact on society in general, is how COVID and how the restrictions, is there a constitutional perspective to it? Can you be made to wear a mask? Do masks, are they something that is political? Is it a public health issue? And does public health have the right to quarantine and shut down the economy? Those kind of personal freedom issues we've talked about all year long. From an economic perspective, absolutely, there's been an economic cost to this, and it works into the course pretty easily. We're going to lose 50% of our small businesses. What is that going to look like? A huge amount of restaurants will close. What's that going to look like? So the economic impact of all of this is massive, and it's important that the students understand that there's a level of appreciation to be able to come to school face to face and see your friends and get a traditional education, while there's a lot of people just this week going back to school just this week. A lot of students who've been out of school for a year, been virtual for a year, and they're going to struggle with college and college applications and college admissions processes because they've been out a year. So all of that, as a senior teacher, it's important to show what college is going to be about and help start that transition. And if you're not face to face, it's very hard. So.